The object of TaxiChronicles is to allow real riders with real stories share their experience and enhance your life. So sit back and enjoy the journey. Morning. Yes, we're back with another episode, another rider. Today we have the lovely lady Giordano in the house. And she is a designer in sportswear. She's going to tell us how she got into the industry and where she comes from. And before anybody thinks, she's not American, she's Canadian. So nice to have you here today, Giordano.
Oh, thanks, mate.
So tell us, how did you get into the world of design, and when did you realise the design was your calling?
Oh, well, I was basically working in a bank and was walking down Oxford Street and thought, what the hell am I doing with my life? This isn't what I want to be doing. And I saw the London College of Fashion and I decided to apply, and I'd never done design before, but I knew it was what I wanted to do. And so I did a year where I sort of built a portfolio, and everything that I was doing was more related to athletes and muscles as opposed to, sexy bodies and hot people. So someone told me you should be a sportswear designer. So I studied that, and that was it.
There's lots of questions I can come out of that, because I'm thinking, right, let me start from going backwards. What's the difference between muscles and sexy bodies?
Oh, well, that's a good point. I suppose a lot of the people that I studied with were kind of designing for beautiful models with sort of, I suppose, like walking hangers, walking clothes hangers, but I was more interested in the body and movement and things like that. But I suppose you're right, there's no difference between the muscles and sexy bodies. They're all in the same. But everyone's different, and I think a lot of people just wanted to sort of design pretty dresses, and I wanted to do something else. Yeah, I think it's about the body and movement, and I think that's such a challenge. When someone is just walking down a catwalk in a dress, it doesn't have to be designed in such a way that it has performance or purpose or support or helps someone do something active. So it was more just not just doing something for show, but making something that has a purpose. Yeah.
So, going back and questioning, what age were you when you made that change?
Oh, I was late in life, so I'd already studied and worked for a lot of years, and so I think I was about 26, 27.
So you've been working in banking for quite a few years.
Well, I've been working in marketing, and I ended up in a bank, as that was the job that I could get when I moved back to London. So, yeah.
And what motivates you for the design?
I think it's just giving something someone can move in and improve their health and find their sense of motion. And I think what actually inspires me is sustainable design. So I mostly focus on sustainability nowadays. So it's performance fabrics that are also recycled or made in a circular way. So that's it's kind of like the circle of life and also of fabric. So yeah, I think those are the two things that inspire me most: bodies in motion and the planet, really.
What's the most difficult thing that you've learned that you wish you knew when you started?
Ooh, I think the most difficult thing that really sort of hit me was the masses of stuff that we have. So when you're kind of just a consumer and you don't really realize the process of how something's made, you kind of think it just appears, and you don't really realize all of the processes and resources and hands that touch a garment until you get it. So I found that quite overwhelming, actually, to look at the process itself and then how much we have. And I think it's too much, but
give us some insight into. So I gathered there's the material testing, there's the stretch kind of stitches, kind of cuts.
Yeah, so there's lots of the thing with sportswear and performance sportswear is that's where there's always new innovations happening, or it's where most innovation happens first, as opposed to fashion. So you see a lot of things like you can have properties built into fabrics that give you something back. So there could be infrared or things like that help your muscles recover. There can be it's like a technology that helps rebuild muscle. It's kind of built into the fabrics, but I don't know too much about that one, to be honest. But it is just really interesting, the things that you can do to fabrics that.
Chemical
I don't know actually how they do it. I that's something I'll have to look into, but. It's kind of within the fibers themselves. It might be sort of within the knit or the structure of the fibers. So.
Okay. You were saying before I interrupted.
Yeah. So the testing is really interesting, because for performance sports, where you have to obviously think about someone wearing it in a way that is quite aggressive, I suppose, or. A wearer of a legging has to take a lot more hits than just something that you'd wear on the day-to-day, like a dress trouser or something. But so you have to really have it be able to last over, hundreds of washes and wears in quite intense situations. Obviously, people sweat in things a lot, and so the fabrics need to hold up against, things like sweat.
And how long they wear it for.
Mm-hmm.
And what conditions and temperature.
Yeah.
Okay, that's really. You've really opened my mind there, because I didn't really think of it like that. And also, I used to be in the military, so we wear certain sports clothing just for when we're doing operations.
Yes.
Because it's warm or those kind
lightweight,
of things. And that kind of thing. Tell us, what's a typical day like for you?
Oh gosh. Well, currently I'm working on a project with a big global brand that I can't mention, but it's sort of, they're starting a new movement in sportswear, and so we're kind of dealing with the inception of the brand and the creation of the brand, the naming and what it looks and feels like, and who it's for and what it means. So there's that whole side of things, but then there's also the product side, where we're sort of helping to influence how the collections are made and what they're made of, and how quality and durable they are. And so a typical day at the moment is quite varied. So it could be anything from working on a swing tag, which is the little tag that tells you how much a garment is and what it's made of and where it's made, to the branding, to the labeling, to the storytelling of it. So yesterday I had a meeting about not influencers as such, but people who could represent the brand in a really credible way, communities. And then this week I delivered a big sustainability strategy, so that was part of my week. And then I helped with the product team, just kind of looking at different fabrics and what they're doing. So it can be anything really can happen in a day, but
that's interesting. What is there an average time from creation to on the shop floor?
That's a really good question. Most people are designing 2 years ahead, so I'll be designing something that will be in the shop 2 years from now. So to kind of research it, to plan it into the manufacturing, to source the yarns and the dyes and whatever it might be. Typically you design 2 years in advance, but with certain other brands, they have the infrastructure to be able to do things more quickly. So it could be sort of a year in advance, but you probably don't want to do it any closer than that, because you want to be able to ship it by freight and boat as opposed to air, so it's better for the environment.
So the shipping is usually 8 weeks.
Yes. Well, interestingly, you said about being in the military. I did an amazing project for the Air Force of another country, and it was all about designing like a layering system that was lightweight and protective and made out of fabrics that if the engine caught fire or something like that, it doesn't melt to their skin. It was warm, it was water protective, because it's not just sitting in the plane, it's also the training, and such an interesting actual exploration of.
That would take a lot longer.
Well, I think that would. Well, I mean, it depends on what the thing is, but it's just really interesting when you're designing for that level of performance and needs.
Because also, unlike the athlete, the only difference with what the athlete does, the athlete gets to sit down after an hour or two.
Yes, excuse me.
Military personnel is going on for days, if not weeks, maybe months.
Yeah.
And if there's, let's say, a sniper, they're not washing their clothes because they're trying to stay in tune with the environment.
Yeah.
So you've got to, that's...
Yeah, it's really, really interesting.
I don't think you could get any more extreme.
No.
Even the people who climb Everest is because that's still one terrain and they rest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I find that so interesting. And when you're designing for someone's safety or their camouflage or their being able to be seen very easily or whatever it may be, you have to think of so many different things in that instance. And you want people to stay be able to be in focus and feel part of a team. And there's so much to think about. You think about the performance of something, the activity that they're doing, the environment that they're doing it in. And the aesthetic and the almost physiological and psychological needs of that as well.
And also you've got to add in the fighting.
Yeah.
Not just fighting like shooting when they're kind of wrestling. Okay. So what does the future hold for you?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, I love sort of consulting and dealing with the sustainable side of design and designing for performance. So that's definitely something that I want to keep up. But I've moved out to the countryside now, and I would love to become a beekeeper randomly.
Okay.
Yeah, so I have an idea. Well, my friend and I are starting an online vintage fashion platform, and then I'm starting something called Honey Pot, which is handmade pottery, honey pots with the honey from the bees. So
you can start your own sports clothing, and it could be something bee, and then you get a jar of honey when you buy it.
Absolutely. Oh, see, I need to work with you. You've got some ideas.
Okay, just try and bring everything under one
Okay.
double sales,
Absolutely. Upselling.
I actually get that. You get the idea from the drug dealers when you do go to an ice cream van, buy an ice cream, and you actually get
Oh yeah. There you go. There you go.
To your 16-year-old self,
Yes.
what would you say?
Chill out. Just don't worry so much. It'll all come right in the end. And just, I think I have amazing parents who always just said, go get life and try things, and nothing's ever going to be forever. And so why not just give whatever you can a go, because life is short, and you've got to make the most of it, because we're here once and not for a long time. So yeah.
To a 16-year-old who wants to get into the fashion industry or just fashion designing of sportswear, what would be your advice to them? Do they need a degree?
Well, I also lecture at the London College of Fashion, so I have to say that university is really great for meeting people. However, the experience of university is really different now with COVID, and I think the best thing about going to university was the people that I met, and they're still all my friends, and they're my network of people within the industry, because we grew up together doing it. So that's really important. But where you don't have that right now at the moment, it's not as focused on that. It's more just online lectures and stuff. So you're kind of missing out on that really beneficial thing. So I think if you're passionate about it, try and do as much yourself as you can. And I would say that make use of what we already have to make what you're making. There's so many incredible designers who are remaking clothes, using dead stock fabrics, using things that already exist, and we don't need anything new. Make the most of what we have already.
Okay.
And that's the future.
And Mark kind of answered the last question. The last question is, what's the gift you want to share with the world?
I think it is nature, and to get out in it as much as possible, and to love it and respect it, because it's the most beautiful art that you'll ever see. It's the most giving thing that you'll ever experience, and there's nothing like it. No virtual world or metaverse or bullshit like that is ever going to replace what nature gives us. So just fucking go see it and look after it, because if we don't, then that's a really shitty thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
And have you started can people find you on any social media for your bee honey thing? Or
No, it's just starting, but my Instagram is Giordano Ray. Giordano Ray.
Do you want to spell it out?
Jordanna and then RAE.
Okay, well, thanks a lot for that, and we wish you well.
Oh, cheers, mate. Thanks so much.
We hope that episode enhanced your life. We post an interview every day, as well as vlogging on our social media channels. Don't forget to subscribe to get our latest episode.